As the unraveling of the Okwama killings continues, speculators are saying that oil theft in the Niger Delta is connected to the mayhem that befell the communities in Delta, Rivers, and Bayelsa states. About 108,000 barrels of crude are reportedly stolen daily in Nigeria. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, which Nigeria is a member of, estimates that the country lost 2.3 million barrels monthly, amounting to over $1 billion every 3 months. Security agents have made some arrests and destroyed vessels used for crude oil theft off the Niger Delta creeks. But experts believe that the menace, which has robbed the nation financially and environmentally, will become a thing of the past when the government stamps out official complicity and bunkering and ensure transparency and accountability. Seriaka Dickson, the immediate past governor of Bayelsa State and current senator representing Bayelsa West in the National Assembly, has noted that oil theft is being perpetrated deliberately in the country, alleging that bigwigs from Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, are masterminds of the criminal act on Niger Delta soil. Joining us now as we take a look at oil theft in the Niger Delta amid the Okwama killings and its aftermath is Senator Seriaka Dickson. Senator, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you very much, my countryman, Dr. Abati Rufai, and the beautiful lady out there. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
yes.
You're welcome. Well, quickly, you have just been quoted as saying that people from the Southwest and the Federal Capital Territory, outsiders, are responsible for oil theft in the Niger Delta. Well, just to clarify that you say so exactly. And then if it is true that you say so, how? So that you provide context, identity, and all of that. And secondly, your comments generally on the current happenings in the Okwama community, all the way to Igbomotoro in Bayelsa State, with the killing of 17 soldiers in Okwama, and also the response of the military leading to the arrest of the Ovie of Iwu Kingdom and other persons. Those two issues. Let's start with.
Well, thank you very much, Ruben. Nice to see you. And it's good to know that you're looking good. What I said in context, let me put the remarks I made in proper context, which is not that people from the southwestern part in Lagos and Abuja are doing it. No, that's not what I said. I didn't say southwest. I said big players in the big cities of Nigeria, specifically Lagos, Abuja, meaning they are big players. That's what I mean. Because you must be big. You must be well entrenched. You must be part of the systems, the various systems, the security systems, the oil system, and the topmost governmental systems to be able to carry out, I mean, we've been talking of illegal bunkering in this country for years, and I'm not the only one that has said so. That is a very well-known fact. Even the former president said the oil we sell, I mean specifically President Obasanjo, said the oil that is sold in Nigeria, if you go out there, is far less than the one that actually leaves Nigeria. The one that leaves Nigeria that is not recorded is far more than what is recorded. So it's a very well-known fact. And what I mean is that it is the big players conniving with their foreign partners, with their friends and business allies, compromising. They are strong enough, Ruben, to compromise the security establishment. They are strong enough to compromise and infiltrate and maintain a grip on the oil industry at the topmost levels, at the tactical operational levels. And that's what is happening. Everybody knows it. So I don't think too much clarification is needed. And I don't think it's a question of specific identity. We know that people who are big players are doing this, and the they found a very convenient camouflage in the few young men that are apprehended and the rickety facilities that are displayed, across the Niger Delta states and in the forests and so on and so forth. Yes, that is also going on. Yes, that is also condemnable. And I did a lot of that sensitization and enforcement and support to the law enforcement agencies while I served as governor, But that is also going on. But that is a very negligible part. That's the point I'm making, Ruben. What you see young people do in the forests of the Niger Delta, what they say, producing fuel or whatever name they call it, is a negligible part of the illegal bunkering. And in fact, the pilfering, the stealing of Nigerian crude that has been going on for long. And that is taking place at different points. At the terminals, meaning that you've got to be big players, big enough to pay dollars to hire vessels that will come, sometimes a mother vessel waiting outside for days and weeks, and if not months. It's a complex operation. And then you have to be influential enough to infiltrate and compromise the national security architecture to be able to do that. When I was governor, the national security advisors at the time held meetings with us, with the security chiefs. And part of what was agreed upon was to implement the plan they already had, the Falcon Eye project. And we made sure Bayelsa was very faithful to it. We funded and supported the establishment of the Falcon Eye project. I don't want to mention the locations, but it's there. If you go to the Chief of Naval Staff's office, you will have that system there. And I'm sure if you go to the Central Naval Command, it's there in Yenagoa, and also in other strategic parts of where you can see the shoreline of this country. And if that is so, then you must be asking yourself, what is going on? Why is it that this country has found it convenient not to be scientifically metering the oil that is sold? Why? Why is it manual? And we know that there are speculations that all these people that are lifting crude, if they come with a vessel that can take that is built to take 1 million barrels per day, they will load. Who is there checking whether they are loading 1 million or less or more? In Focados,
all right,
in Bonny, in Brass.
All right.
That is what we are talking about.
Yes, sir.
So, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And I hear the passion in your voice as you speak about this, something that you have worked against in terms of oil theft. But let me ask you very quickly. There's been, and I'm sure you've heard it, the correlation or the connection between oil theft and the Okwama killings. According to the Chief of Defense Staff when he was here with us, he had said that the army had gone on a peace dialogue mission to the community based on their fight against, oil bunkering. What's your take on this? What's your perspective on this? And then side by side that, because you talk about the efforts made by the government and yourself whilst you were governor to fight against oil bunkering, what would you say the impact of services like Tantita have contributed to whether stopping or reducing incidents of oil theft or oil bunkering in the Niger Delta?
Well, Tantita knows the terrain. There's no one who knows the terrain more than the Tompolo who is behind Tantita. And I support that. We all support that, okay? Because this is something that the formal security people cannot do, by experience. Because the Niger Delta is a very complex terrain. A number of you sitting down in Lagos and Abuja, you may not know the complexity of the geographical entity known as the Niger Delta. You are talking of a complex mesh of interconnecting rivers, creeks, rivulets, and so on. in a dense mangrove environment. So it's a very difficult terrain. So I see the wisdom behind the engagement of people who know the terrain, who are players in the maritime, local maritime area, to at least navigate it, connecting properly with the established security forces. So I support what is going on. As to the efficacy or otherwise of what has happened, I cannot speak because I don't have the facts. Now, on what the Chief of Defense Staff said concerning the unfortunate events in Okwama, let me make it clear that our condolences and sympathies continue to lie first with our military men, officers and men who died in the course of in the line of duty. And as I remarked on the floor of the Senate when this came up, there are not many, even at times of war, even when the nation is at war, it's not every day that you lose that number. To lose a lieutenant colonel, majors, and others in one fell swoop. In one fell swoop. It's a very terrible blow to our national security system. And we condole with their families and the military for that. But I don't want to make statements that are prejudicial, because I also sit as a member of the Senate Committee on Defense. I sit on the joint committee that is currently, that has been constituted to examine the root causes of what happened. And we have held preliminary interactions with the Chief of Defense Staff and the service chiefs. And we expect to be briefed about the outcomes, about their investigation. And when I and others are briefed accordingly, then I will be in a position to interrogate the facts and the circumstances. And then we will ask questions about it. But I am not surprised. I am not surprised that there is a connection between illegal oil activity, drug abuse, illegal proliferation of light weapons, communal crisis, and cultism. All of these are interwoven in the security matrix of the Niger Delta now, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because what happens is that, yeah. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Before I ask my question. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so what happens is that young people are somehow allowed to be part of this by those whoever are the brains behind it, and you must secure territory. And to secure territory, you need a large number of young people, able-bodied men. And to be able to deter others, they need to be armed. Okay. And for them to be ferocious enough, they need to be on drugs. And for you to maintain total control of their loyalties, there has to be a cult-like relationship. So all of these are issues we have dealt with over the years and tried to reduce. Of course, while I served as governor, Bayelsa was one of the safest states. We laid the foundation for that. And I'm happy to report that up till now, Bayelsa continues to be safe and stable.
Okay.
Because of the foundational work that was done and what the current system is also building on. So that is the relationship. So if there is that observation by the Chief of Defense Staff, I don't doubt it.
Okay, so, but as we speak today, Bayelsa is not safe as the way you left it, because there were attacks in a particular community as a result of this Okwama long line of incidents. So it's not safe today, you know. In fact, the community was closed for a while. But I want to talk to you about the complicity of political office holders and all of this warlord we've built in all of this community. The question a lot of people are now saying is that there's a complicity between political office holders, that it is you, the politicians, that use them for elections, and in turn give them a big room and an ambit to be able to do anything. I mean, somebody's even challenging and saying, the problem is we don't even have a proper maritime security architecture. That why is it that it's not a failure of the security architecture in Nigeria that even Tantita is now the one looking at securing this area? What are you going to say? And what's that relation with the crisis going on with Amagbe and some other people that have been mentioned, because they're saying it's internal crisis? And you were talking also about the army. Our commiserations to the army. But there's been another part that rights were violated, and the Okwama community is saying that they're going to sue, I think over 200 million, 200 billion as we speak today, just like we all remember Odi incident. I mean, what are you saying as regards that? And the army is having an independent, the army is going ahead to in fact find and investigate what happened. Should the army be doing that, or you, the Senate, should push for an independent body that will be able to look at all the things that happen remotely? I know you don't want to be prejudicial on this, but I want you to speak to that also.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Rufai. You've as usual, you have asked so many questions in one bit. Let me see if we can take them bit by bit. First, on Amagbe, that gentleman, unfortunately, is not somebody I can even picture in my head. But I know is some kind of player in that Egbomontoro environment. And also, there were developments in Egbomontoro, but that does not mean that the state as a whole is unsafe. No, that's not a correct characterization. I think because Amagbe is maternally from Egbomontoro, as I've come to understand, and is paternally here from the Okuama area, I can understand why the security agencies went on a trail. And unfortunately, from the reports we have gotten so far, there were casualties in Egbomontoro, just as there were casualties now that we have come to also know in Okuama. And talking about that, what has happened, the army response, we can understand the emotion behind it. I mean, when you see a Lieutenant Colonel being dismembered, two majors being slaughtered, and so on. But I think that the army, in a way, even though what has happened has led to casualties, even of innocent people, I understand in Okuama, people are still in the forest, and a traditional ruler has been arrested, and so on and so forth. I think we should move away from mass victimization. We should condemn it. We should move away from it, even though we understand the emotions behind it. I mean, tempers were flamed.
Condemn what the army did, right?
The commander being beheaded.
Condemn what the army did, right?
That is the allegation. That's what we are reading about. That there are some collateral damage in Okuama, and also people were killed in both Egbomontoro and Okuama. But you see, Rufai, as we sit on the facts, once we get the report, we may have cause, for example, to interact with the Okuama community. We'll have cause to interact with the Egbomontoro community in our normal and ordinary course of looking into this matter as a joint Senate committee. But that is understandable. That has happened. We are not happy about it because we can't be going back to OD days. We can't be going back to Zakibiam. But truthfully, the incident at OD was far more destructive, and Zakibiam far more than the reports we are hearing. That does not mean we justify what has happened, but that's what I'm saying. Now, on whether Tantita should be providing any services at all, like I said earlier, you need local knowledge to be able to guide and work with the security agencies. So it doesn't really indicate a collapse or failure of the national security architecture. No, it doesn't. Whether they are involved at the intelligence gathering level, it depends on the extent to which they are involved, and I'm not privy to the contract terms, so I can't speak to it. But I don't think that the intention is for them to take over the work of the Nigerian Navy, policing the blue waters. I don't think so. The brown waters. I don't think so. So I think that... Your
Excellency, sir, but people are saying
there's room for some engagement.
Your Excellency, sir, but people are saying that that's the problem. Because you know the antecedents of Tompolo, he was also a militant in the past and all of that. So people are saying that you gave Tompolo, you didn't give other people. It's also generating a lot of ripples in this area. Because we all know the antecedents. It wasn't that Tompolo and Tantita was a private security company for over 10 or 30 years. It was because of a transition program from being a militant and causing chaos in that area that he sought aside. So you're saying you gave him, you didn't give other people. In fact, there was a protest yesterday against Tantita because of that. What do you say about that? That's why we're talking about Tantita.
Yes, I understand that. I understand that, Rufai, but you see, ultimately it is up to the management of the, what do they call them? Is it NMPC or is it DP or whatever? I mean, there are so many changes, sometimes you lose track of it. But whoever is responsible for managing that needs to do it in such a way that other players are carried along. even in that segment. I mean, the ex-agitation segment you are talking about. I mean, if you are doing that in Bayelsa, if you are doing that in Delta, if you are doing that in Rivers, for example, there are names who, in our view, but no, we are not consulted, we are not part of it. It's something that the oil industry people are doing. But I hope and expect that whoever is doing that must be able to, build in a mechanism that will ensure some kind of harmonization, some kind of synergy among the players to be able to effectively provide even the local security and guidance to the formal security people. I think that's the structure that we should. Then talking about whether political leaders are supporting some of these, I can't rule that out completely. Even though, you must know my antecedent. I defeated federal forces politically, mobilizing the people of Nigeria, people of my state, and with the support of all well-meaning Nigerians, and with the prayers of good people, won elections and held Bayelsa in opposition for the first time. And that trend is continuing. And we didn't kill, we didn't maim. And I'm not one of those associated. I don't know the price of a bullet. I don't know the price of a gun. I don't belong to any cult or encourage that. Everybody knows my politics. My politics is based firstly on the work we do, the connection we establish with our people, and then the prayers. That's what we do. But I know that tendency exists. Even in I know what I went through in the 2015 general elections, even when I was preparing and overseeing what turned out to be a very turbulent transition, 2019, over 25 people were slaughtered in broad daylight in Nembe.
Senator
I
Dickson.
called off the rally. I was to attend.
Senator Dickson,
yes.
Before we go, we're having this conversation at a time the Nigerian government is hosting what is called a high-level meeting on counter-terrorism. President Tinubu declared the meeting open yesterday in Abuja. And one of the points the president made is that the international community is part of this problem. And that the international community must help to address the linkage between illegal mining and terrorism, banditry, all these conflicts. And yesterday also, the federal government of Nigeria announced a national stakeholders working group, a 15-member working group to oversee NATI, the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. Now, what will you say, about this involvement of the international community? Is it something that can be addressed? Let's start from the Nigerian level.
First, thank you very much. I want to commend the president for that step. But that's not the first time a president of Nigeria has made that declaration. And I want us to urge the president to continue on that path and follow through. The NSA is a very experienced person, and he has our full support and cooperation. And I think that the security agencies working in synergy should be able to define and modify our national response to this. But there is an international link, which is part of what I said when I was talking about big boys in Lagos and Abuja. It's actually a way of describing the big players, because the illegal oil that is leaving Nigeria is not living made in Bayelsa canoes, dug-out canoes that we use. No. It's living in vessels, internationally registered vessels that has owners. And those vessels leave Nigeria and bet in terminals across the world. And if our own security agencies are not doing it, what are the security agencies of other nations? So the international community really has a role to play. And let me say, there's room for alleging complicity. So if the president said so, I support the president's assertion. And I think all of us should join the president to call on the international community to brand the stolen crude from Nigeria as blood crude. Yeah. The same way the international community formed an opinion around the issue of blood diamonds in Liberia and some of the war-torn West African territories. I think that could help.
Well, thank you very much, Senator Seriaka Dickson, former governor of Bayelsa State, for joining us on The Morning Show.